Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa u'minu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa din al-haq liyadhhiruhu ala ad-din kullihi wallahu karihal mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd, فَإِنَّ أَصْدَقَ الْحَدِيثِ كِتَابُ اللَّهِ وَأَوْضَاقَ الْأُولَى كَلِمَةُ التَّقْوَى وَخَيْرُ الْبِلَادِ مِلَّةُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَخَيْرُ السُّنَنِ سُنَّةُ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم وأشرف الحديث ذكر الله وأحسن القصص هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزموها وشير الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الهدي هدي الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفع وخير الهادي ما أتبع وشير الأمة أما الكون. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the Sunnah, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. Worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are those that yield benefits. The best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. This is from one of the Khutbahs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It might have been the one at Tabuk, or going for Tabuk, and this relates to our deen in general, because there's an ayat in Quran when it says the most truthful of discourses is the book of Allah. Then it says the most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. If we go down to Quran, Surah Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, Zalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. Zalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. So it's saying this is the book. Zalikal, this is the book. Kitabu La Rayba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. So there's a condition here. La Rayba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. There is no doubt, there is no uncertainty in this book. So this is what La Rayba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. But now to get some benefit, there's a condition that's Hudan Lil Muttaqin. And that you kind of understand clearly that it is the guidance, for sure, without doubt, that you're going to get your guidance not from some philosopher or not some poet or not some historian, your guidance, right, the hidayah, comes from Quran. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The other condition here, muttaqeen, and number 2 here is the most trustworthy word is taqwa. So muttaqeen is one that has taqwa. If you remember a lot of the writings in the 80s and the 90s, especially even the early 2000s, especially from Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui, he talked about muttaqi leadership, that we as believers need muttaqi leadership. Not the kind of leadership that we have in the so-called Muslim world. Because if you have the king of Saudi Arabia, is he a muttaqi? Right? If you have, what is it, Isi, or Sisi, whatever his name is, from Egypt, Misr, is he muttaqi? What's the name in Turkey? Is he muttaqi? Can you find, except there's a place, we believe there's a few, but it's not the main boys. They are not muttaqi. Why? Because muttaqi relates to the word taqwa. Taqwa relates to guarding and safeguarding and protecting. So if you relate it all the way back to ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that this taqwa is coming from the hidayah in the book which there's no doubt in. You see what I mean? And you are muttaqi if you protect your religion and you protect yourself and you protect your favor, your future, by what? Following the hidayah, the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these things, openings, may seem very simple, but Surah Baqarah, the first few ayats, is technically the essence of our religion. Alladhina yu'minuna bil ghayb wa yuqimuna as-salata wa mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. Another thing is that you got to believe this. Right? This is what this movement, Al-Amin, was the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his nickname, before he became a prophet, right? He was a trustworthy personality before he became a prophet. So, amana, trust, to feel safe. If a person is a movement, as the hadith say, you feel they are a person that their life, their honor, and their property are what? Safe in your hands. This hadith is clear. Ghaib. Now, Iman bil ghaibi, faith in the unseen. Technically, I like the Muhammad Assad's rendition of that when he translated. I didn't bring it, but what it basically says, all of it, they say, guide the unseen. You have faith in the unseen, which is true. But I like what it says, Muhammad Assad, when he translates, he says, faith in that which is beyond the range of human perception. That's serious. Yeah. Now, but now what is it? What do you have faith in? What's beyond your perception? Akhirah. Right? You do right, you go, well, you're going to one akhirah one way or the other anyway. It's just the one we don't want to go to, but there is a next life. And it could be a very nice situation, or it could be a big tragedy for you. So this Iman, and that which is beyond the range of human perception, is you don't see no angels, but we believe in them. We believe they exist, right? Why? Because the Quran, the Hidayah, has explained it to us. So we believe in that which is beyond the range of human perception, right? That means we believe in the hereafter. We also believe in books that came before us, that unseen, properly performed salah. And then, razaqnahum yunfiqun. We are willing to spend some of the risk that comes from Allah. We're not only grateful, we're thankful and appreciative for the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given us. The risk of Allah. Razaqnahum yunfiqun. So you're thankful for the risk of Allah, right? Yunfiqun from anfaq means you're willing to spend some of it on somebody else. You are ready to help someone else, right? Based on your thankfulness and your gratefulness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His grace. Alladina yu'minuna unzila ilayka wa ma unzila min qablik wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun. And who believe in what has been sent down, anzala, to you, and what was sent down before you. So we believe in Quran, right? It's sent down for us. But the Christians had the Injil sent to them. And the Yahud, they had the Torah sent to them, right? And so we believe in those books, but we follow the Quran. We believe they were sent to those people, but we follow Quran. Now, if you believe all this with certainty, yaqeen, we don't have time to talk about it now, but remember, ayn al-yaqeen, something you have seen with your eyes. Ilm al-yaqeen, you are certain of something because you know. Like, I know I have so many brothers. I know it because we all grew up in the same family. I knew who my mother was. I knew who my father was. I knew where the house was. Why? Because I've seen it with our own eyes. I've been surrounded by it. So that's ilm al-yaqeen. Haqq al-yaqeen is the certain reality. What we're talking about, basically what the Quran is talking about, is yaqeen. Certainty. I am certain of this reality. And if you are certain of this reality, then you are on safe ground. Such people are on guidance from their Lord. Ulaika ala hudan min rabbihim wa ulaika humul muflihun. This is the guidance now. These people are successful. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah. Falah, from success, to succeed, to accomplish certain goals. There's more to this, but if we keep on like this, we'll never finish the opening. So, إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin, and He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan will to guide, He opens their breast to Islam. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. And remember, again, we're faced with this taqwa again. In this case, fear of Allah, awe of Allah. You know, that's a person that was praying, and he was fidgeting and scratching, just doing whatever he wanted to do. And the Prophet ﷺ said if he had khushu, awe and respect for Allah, you would see it on his body. You know, in other words, if he khushu is like in physical terms, when you stand over the Grand Canyon, you look, you say, man, this is serious business. It is serious. You are struck by the gravity of it. You just say, man, this is serious business. You know, if you go to the great waterfall, Lake Victoria, the headwater of the Nile, there's two headwaters, one White Nile, the Blue Nile, one's in Ethiopia, one's what they used to call Lake Victoria, right there in Central East Africa. If you see all that water coming down, you just say, man, that's serious. Same thing like Niagara Falls. Anybody been to Niagara Falls? When you go to Niagara, yes, right, when we was going to Canada, we stopped through there many times. Man, when you look at all of that water, and Allah created all that water, you be holding on to the kids because you say, don't get close to that. Because that water going down through here, if you get a whiff of that, ain't nothing Daddy can do. You just go. You're going over it. Ain't nothing you can do. You know, that's the awe. If we had the same feeling about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the Hidayah, the Quran, and all of that, you would see it on our body and how we act and how we carry ourselves. وَأَتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا اذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ, and hold fast all together by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves, and remember with gratitude Allah's favor on you. Remember, all of these are related to our faith. وَأَتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, hold on all together, jami'an, what? To the rope which Allah stretches out to you, that is Islam. And be not divided amongst yourselves. Because of the blessing when you was on the brink of the pit of fire, and Allah pulls you back from it. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nasi ta'muruna bil ma'rufi wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best of peoples evolved for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in Allah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idha lakitum fiyatan fathbutu wadhkurullahu kathiran la'alakum tuflihun wa atiullah wa rasulahu wa la tanazzahu fatafshalu wa tadhhaba rihukum wasbiru inna allaha ma'as-sabiqun. O you believe, when you meet a party, stand firm and remember Allah much, that you might attain success. And obey Allah and His Messenger, and do not wrangle. Then you will lose heart, and your spirit will go away. And persevere. Verily Allah is with those persevering ones. I would like to read a little passage from, this is just the front of it. This is about 14 years ago. One of our articles from As-Sabiqun, How to Think, Believe, and Act After 9/11. And after an opening, we start on page 2 with what we just read. Oh, you believe, when you meet a force, be firm, and call Allah in remembrance much and often, that you may prosper, and obey Allah and His Messenger, and fall into no disputes, lest you lose heart and your power depart. And be patient and persevere, for Allah is with those who patiently persevere. We would like to start off by citing a passage from Quran. With the avalanche of attacks on Islam, the character of an Islamic activist should exemplify focus, discipline, self-control, self-confidence, willpower, vision, and commitment. And then we cite the ayahs. In the Arabic, we find in the first ayah the word fathbitu, which comes from thabata, to stand firm, to be stable, to maintain sureness and constancy. When the believers face an enemy, as indeed we do today, they should be unyielding to pressure of any kind, not even for the slightest moment. Such pressure is designed to distract our attention in striving to achieve our goals. We must adopt an attitude of resolution, steadfastness, and constancy. It goes on to break down the vocabulary of the word. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha lakitum fiyatan. Fia is a group or a party, you know. It could be an army. When you meet a force, when you meet an enemy, like we are today, we're facing the Zionist-inspired, Donald Trump elected, by the Zionists, of course, political system. That the immigrant Muslims are scared to death, right? So when we go to this meeting this Sunday over at one of our places near here, if they ask us anything, that's fine. We'll give our response. If they don't, we'll just sit and listen. But our understanding of this country is that everything that is happening to the Ummah and to us is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, it is. It's a gift from Allah. We talk many times about you and I being brought over here as slaves, right? 45% of us were Muslims when we got here. That language, religion, culture, everything is stripped away. Living through America is for us, is one of the greatest crimes and the greatest stories of resolution that you can find anywhere in history, including the Zionist Jews, all of them. Nobody, a Jew, knew who he was, right? But when you're stripped of language, culture, religion, your whole history is taken away, and you don't know nothing about anything except what the one who has enslaved you tells you you are. And then in the midst of all of that, you come back to what? Islam. We came back to Islam for our own personal growth, but because of a historical reality and a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you remember all of our earlier groups, whether it's Dar al-Islam, Islamic Party, even the Nation of Shirk, everybody was militant and disciplined, right? And mission-orientated, which we don't have time to deal with now, but the mission that we always are talking about from the Quran. Our mission comes from Quran. And the Islamic movement in America inherited the historical struggle. Whether you talk about civil rights, whether you talk about later on Black Power movement, Black nationalism, right? And finally, BLA, Black Liberation Army. And what are many of those people evolved to? Imam Jamil and Sekou Dinga, all of them evolved to what? Islam. So what happened? Islam inherited the revolutionary posture in America. We inherited the liberation movement in America. Islam. So it wasn't supposed to be just civil rights. It wasn't supposed to be just we're black people and want to be free. That wasn't the purpose. That's the stages leading up to a conclusion. And then we came to Islam. And all the groups had the idea. The chief gave a talk in '76 in Philadelphia, remake the world. It was great. Everybody, we're going to call the adhan in the White House. Then all of a sudden, African American Muslims began to lose some strength. Most of the Masjid built in America was in our neighborhood. The immigrant community came for the second wave. Schools and we used to have so much fun together. MSA back in the 70s and 80s. Everybody was young. We did itikaf in the Masjid. We hung out with the brothers and we learned fundamentals of Islam, right? And they were students and we hung out together a lot. And later on, they came outside of the community. We used to call ourselves, these are brothers. And then we started calling them doctor brothers. It's just a joke. You know, first we all brothers, and then after everybody get out of university, they moved to a different neighborhood away, and we refer to our friends as doctor brothers. You know, it's just, you can understand the Negro affiliation. But then, I'm going to speed up. The Islamic movement began to take on immigrant flavor. The Masjid all over America, cathedral, you know, Masjid all over America now. there was a big push to integrate into America and away from inviting people to Islam. Those of you who are older, remember everything was all the pamphlets on dawah, invite people to Islam, right? We had Ahmediyat tapes and all of his stuff from way back in the 70s. Who moved the stone and all of that, right? Confronting the Bible and Christianity. Then we began to get a little too big. The world caught up with us. The Zionists began to bomb and murder and destroy buildings. And by 1993, they did the first World Trade Center, blamed it on us, and then we got all the security acts that we have now, basically. Then the Muslims began to get scared, and they set the Muslims up real good. We say they created a Hitlerian environment. A Hitlerian environment is an environment in America exactly that existed in Germany before World War II. What do we mean by that? You think Donald Trump is the first madman to be openly elected, no matter what he say or do? He's not. Now, Adolf Hitler in 1933 was selected as Chancellor of Germany, right? He burned the Reichstag, that is the Congress building, and blamed it on you-know-who. That gave him Führership to defend the fatherland, Deutschland, isn't that right? To defend the fatherland against all enemies. So if you're not staying up with history, you think this all popped up, but not us. No sirree. Because we grew up being fed that World War II propaganda and movies, all the old movies on TV, everything was about the Nazis, how they came to power, what was the environment that produced it. The Germans in World War I and lost World War I, and all the other guys was going to now force Germany to pay reparations, to pay for the war. So all throughout the 20s, Germany was having problems. So by 1933, the Nazi party tell everybody, we ain't putting up with this no more. You bring me to power, we're going to fix all of that. And they did. Germany rearmed. Within 6 or 7 years, it was on the verge of ruling all of Europe. 6 years. From flat on the ground to knocking at the door of Europe. And he wasn't playing either. Because Adolf Hitler had already knocked all of Europe except Britain. Right? That was the only one. All the continent of Europe was washed. Then he turned in 41 to attack Russia 8 time zones. Right? In 41. That's how fast he grew. Now, what is a Hitlerian environment? A Hitlerian environment is a policy of the past glory of a people up in smoke, and they create an environment where they bring a person to the forefront because our environment has been created for this. So they say, oh, the poor white people voted for Trump to bring him in, to bring back the good old days, right? When they were somebody. Okay, They brought him back, Hitler, and they brought back what's her name? What is his speech pattern? It's the same as Adolf Hitler. Who brought him to power? The Zionists brought him to power so they could maintain their global power, and they'll bring a fool to power anytime they can to do their bidding. Isn't that right? So they brought him to power. Now, here we are, the innocent Muslims. Who brought him to power? The people that know more about Hitler and how they operate than anybody in the world, right? Remember the movies we saw about in the late 40s, all throughout the 50s and 60s, the old movies on TV, they all talk about how the Nazis took over towns and group punishment and all of that, right? Do you notice that the Zionists treat the Palestinians word for word, minute for minute, letter for letter, exactly like the Nazis treated the Europeans? Exactly. No miss at all. He treats Palestinians exactly. That is a Zionist. Right? All right. I'm going to speed up. So now they done delivered the Muslims, you and I are in the way of Zionism in America. This ain't new. We've been talking about this stuff for 20 years, more than that, here. So we got to win this struggle. And we got to think, what are we going to do? Okay? So, first of all, ain't nobody listening to us, right? Well, for a while, a little bit before, like in 2000, in the late 90s, remember all the programs and demonstrations and the security and everything we're doing, right? Everybody's As-Sabiqun, Masjid al-Islam was all right. But after 9/11, we can't touch y'all. Why? Because you're gonna make Americans mad. You're gonna make white people mad. All that stuff you're talking out there, right? So we've been looking at our brothers and sisters all the time. I'm going to wrap it up because this is. So what do? We've been knowing this has been coming. We've been preaching on it all along. And we also had the feeling they're going to be back home. You know why they're going to be back home? Because the Zionists is controlling things in the back, and they're not going to let you get no power. And they prove it. The more you get close to them, remember Al-Moody, American Muslim Council, trying to sneak up to the system? He's sitting in the penitentiary now, got to do 23 years. That means he got a 23-year sentence, he's going to do 21 of them years. Right? He's going to do that. Why? Because the AMC was getting too close to the system, taking pictures with old George Bush and ho-humming, hobnobbing. And them Zionists, they're not putting up with it. So what do we have to do? All the fitna, and I'm going to be brief on this, and we've talked about this, there has to be a time period for Islam to develop the stability and the strategic management under conditions of repression to handle the coming struggle. So, without nobody having any understanding of this but us, because remember now, we've been tussling with old Sam all our life. It ain't nothing new he gonna do. You can, what's the proof that you know what you're talking about? By, if you can predict your enemy's behavior, time after time after time, you know what you're talking about. So simply, we know if we keep talking the same trash, we're going to get the whole attention of the Zionists. Isn't that right? That's why you can look at whether it's Steve Emerson, whether it's Daniel Pipes, Abe Foxman. These are the biggest Zionists in America, right? Now, if they write specific articles over and over again, and we're number one on their hit list, right? That means we're taking all the attention, or most of the attention, away from our brothers who are building big mosques and centers and voting. They're just rolling. Right? We're taking heat from it because that's our job. That's it, it's our job. If you want the job, don't nobody else want it. But if they were to talk like we did 20 years ago, it would be 3 or 4 mosques around America. They'd be smaller than this. Right? Tell the truth. 20 years ago, if they'd have jumped up and said, you know we have blew up no buildings, and we're going to be out here every day, and we're going to train ourselves to resist you, they wouldn't have got nowhere. Because they weren't used to Sam. Right? We're used to him. So we had to take that heat for them. Now they're ready. They said we can't take it no more. We're scared to death. And the people they've been avoiding, us, please come over, and I don't know what they're up to. But evidently, they're ready to do something because all of them are so nervous and so afraid. That's the immigrant community. And there's something that you have to remember. We are all in this together. For us, technically, there's no such thing as immigrant Muslims and local Muslims and all that mumbo jumbo. When we're here in America, we together. But we just have to know how to play our best cards. And that's what we're getting ready to do now. Now remember, we're not coming up with this overnight. We've been talking about this in meeting after meeting all along. And that's what this ayat is about. When you meet a force, what are you going to need? Be firm, be steadfast, be committed. Now we have to help them. They keep on with kind of a little sweetie pie Islam, but you've got to toughen up a little bit. Because if you blink when you mess with Americans, they'll stick their foot up your behind, won't they? When you go up to sing a Sam, you got to be, you say, hey man, F you. Let's get it on. You can bust me upside the head, you can do what you want to, but this is what I'm doing. That's it. It's got to be your attitude. You can't mess with that cracker, with any other than Zionists, with no other attitude. Right? So, we got to teach what we know. Don't try to do like we do. We're going to continue heading in our direction. But what character, what attitude, what thinking process do they go through? You got to look at everything as a benefit. Right? We got to repoint to what the mission is here. They've been hiding in the masjid. Go out and invite people to Islam. That's what you were here for, see? We talked about it the other night, and I'll close with this in class. We talked about a Jum'ah complex. This is something in psychology. This is from a lecture, actually it's 40 years ago, 35 years, 37 years ago. Or a Eunice complex. And we'll start off with the biblical rendition. Jonah is told to go to Nineveh, to Iraq, right? And he goes down and goes the other way to Spain. Joppa, they called it, Spain in those days. Or Portugal, orange. In Arabic, you know what an orange is? Portugal. That's an orange. So he go to where they raise oranges at, instead of going to Iraq and Nineveh, right? So, y'all know the story on the boat. Boy, the boat is tossing and turning, everybody throwing all their stuff overboard to try to lighten the boat. Can you imagine in those days, a hurricane and all that stuff, on those little rickety boats? Good God Almighty. You'd be scared just to ride on that thing. While everybody else is panicked and going crazy, this is called a biblical rendition, Jonah is down in the bottom of the boat, dead asleep. So the captain comes down, and this is King James version. He says, "What meanest thou, O sleeper?" The whole world is being turned upside down. Everybody throwing all their trade goods overboard, everything but their physical gold. And you down here asleep. So the captain said, "What meanest thou, O sleeper? What is wrong with you?" So psychiatrists call this a Jonah complex. A Jonah complex technically is when you set out on a mission and you run away from your mission. Black people didn't run away from our mission of calling America to Islam, but we were diverted a little while. The immigrant community came here, and Allah had a mission for them to help raise the banner of Islam from here globally, because this is the time. But they've been running away from the mission. They've been hiding. In the Masjid, it's a good place to hide. You go to the big conferences, they don't mention one word about Palestine, and 20% of it may be from Palestine. If Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen to death, it's a crime. Well, nobody say we have a program, a seminar on why Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen. They won't do it, right? Running away from the mission. And I'll close with this. Now you know the old European gonna whoop your behind till you get back on track. Okay? He ain't gonna let you hide nowhere. He's too mean. He's never done that. His history is the king of murderers. Murderers. Right? That's what he do. Make a treaty. He gonna, the poor Iranians, a lot of my friends, I'm telling you, the Rabbah told them, hey, they ain't gonna keep their part of the bargain. They made that deal last year, right, about atomic energy. Iran fulfilled every obligation, and the U.S. haven't fulfilled none of them. I told them, I said, you ask the Indians, they say so-and-so, the Indians. The white, they say, is what they say, we don't say it. They say the white man speaks with a forked tongue, isn't that right? They say he's a liar. He can't, he always lies. He don't lie some of the time. Tell the truth now, let's get real. He always lies. So Allah had blessed us to come back to Islam, and now we're in it with all of our Muslim brothers and sisters who realize this is the time of Islamic revival. So we have to cooperate and be on a good, friendly, loving, compassionate behavior with each other. And we have to call America to Islam. The last thing I'm going to say is, they didn't scare the Muslims into thinking that they're isolated and they're all alone. No, we'll tell simple people like CARE. CARE got 33 officers. We say, you going out. I said, don't do that stuff you've been doing before. Taking your cameras and do one little good deed and put it all over the newspapers. You go, you're not a minority. Everybody is with us. We got 33 officers. help every Latino, every Mexican on the West Coast, every case of immigration and everything that they got, use those offices to help those people. Right? Black people are not the favored minority anymore. We're probably 10 million behind. In 2000, we was about even steep quarter they count, 39 million apiece. They just stole right on out. The Negro is now the number 3 or 4 minority. Well, somewhere down there. Let's say number 3, number 2. He ain't the preferred minority anymore. Right? As old Obama says, si se puede, yes we can. You might as well learn Spanish. That's the preferred minority. And guess what? Them lies they told you about 12 million illegal aliens. I'll stop in a minute, but it reminds me of in 86, 87. I made a tour from California. First I went the southern route, I went all down south, came up this way. And a lot of it I drove Route 1. Went up to Canada, came back down, went across. And they said in those days that we were somewhere 20 to 30-something million African Americans. And I was driving, and I drove, I lived in California and all that, and I drove through Arizona, kind of slight, New Mexico, I hit Texas, and it turned Mexican and black. Houston, big cities. Dallas, whole super neighborhood. Going across the rest of the South, half the people I saw was black. All over the South. And guess what happened on this coast? When I hit places like D.C., it was in the 80s, I said, there ain't no white folks in D.C. in those days, right? And I kept driving on up Route 1. I got to places like Delaware. Now, the only thing I knew about Delaware was George Washington crossed Delaware in 1776, right? And I got to Wilmington, and I said, wait just a minute. Look at the black people here. So I was saying to myself, 20-something million, 30. I said, I've already seen that many with my own eyes. And then the shock of my life, I got to Keystone State, Pennsylvania. I got to Philadelphia. I was on Germantown Avenue, one of the big intersections, and I said, man, I don't see nobody but black people. Didn't stop there. All the way I went up, and don't talk about New York, Harlem and all them places, and out in the country in New York. And then all them states up north, I said, can't be no Negroes in, wasn't too many in Maine, but them other, hey man, Connecticut, not no Negroes in Connecticut. I got to New Haven and I didn't see nothing but Puerto Ricans and Negroes. Don't talk about Jersey, because I drove over Route 1, I was going through Jersey. Jersey, good God Almighty. The same thing, and then I came up to Canada, came back down, went across back to the U.S. Forget about places that I thought was Cleveland, Youngstown, Indiana, Gary, Chicago. I guess all the Negroes were standing on the highway. I said, man, look at all of these people. Even in what the old people used to call Iowa. I said, man, this is Negro, Colorado, Denver, 5 points. What I'm trying to say is, they telling you there's 12 million illegal Mexicans. They can't count. They can't count it all. They are so far off. Where are you from? Carolina somewhere? When you was a kid, did you see any Mexican signs? Spanish signs? Did you? Not one. What about now? Go to any state in America. You got to read Spanish to find out where you're at almost. The point is, we are not a minority, they're not a minority. When you put all, they say, so go California, so goes America. Do you know Europeans are now a minority in California? Yes, it is. So, when you reach out to the people, talking about care, it's not reaching out to a phantom minority. What about all the intellectuals and the white folks that can read and write? They didn't vote for Trump either. What's everybody jumping up and down there in the street for? Most of them people is white. All the white kids from the richest part of this area, right? They are marching in the street. Black Lives Matter look like white folks supporting Black Lives Matter. You ever seen some of these demonstrations? I don't know what's going on. I ain't gonna get into the politics of it, but it's a lot of, you can't tell when they have demonstrations and all that who's behind it. But anyway, let's just say what we see on the surface, think about it. And then me and you, we're tired of this mess. So they didn't create a Hitlerian environment, but that Hitlerian environment gonna bring them down. You and I gonna be a part of it. When you meet a force, be firm, stick together, hold fast. Hold fast to the rope of Allah. Don't let them people separate us between immigrants and indigenous. We all Muslims. We're gonna play a different part. Right? That's all. But we're all in this together. What's the final analysis? Because the world is being threatened by Zionism. And they divide the people all up, and we're going to unify all the people. We're going to invite people to Islam, maybe a little sweetie pie Islam, but it'll be fine and good enough. We have to rescue the poor, dumb American people. I'm not saying that you Americans are dumb, but I mean, let's be factual about it. Any trick they want to run, they want to sell you something, they want to buy the Brooklyn Bridge, white folks will buy it because they don't think too much. I don't mean to sound racist, but Negroes ain't no better. Just so you know, the Negroes ain't no smarter. We all easy to divert. The Shaitan have a field day with all of us, diverting us for our mission. But dear brothers and sisters, we're going to whoop Shaitan's behind, and we're going to reverse the cycle. By unifying with humanity, we're going to whoop the Zionists here in America, right? And then Islam going to spread not from the Middle East, right? But from America to the rest of the world. And we're going to block the hand of those Zionists. Yeah, that's what our job is. That's our mission. Well, Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from what of what is decided. Ameen. The comment is